And in the beginning, I was horrible at follow up and keeping track of projects and just being organized in general. And then, when Linda joined us, that all had to stop. Everybody, there's folders upon folders. I'm sitting at her desk now. There's like 20 folders sitting there, like all organized and neat.
Welcome to the Gearheads and Gasoline podcast, where we dive into the high-octane world of market-leading shop owners, shop employees, and automotive enthusiasts from the aftermarket, restoration, performance, and racing industries. So strap in as we take you on an awesome journey with our guests as they share their real-life stories, lessons learned, business advice, and unfiltered insights to help you beat the school of hard knocks. Gearheads and Gasoline, fueling your success.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barry Alt with Motorhead Digital, and my co-host is Annette Bauer with Annette Bauer Creative.
How y'all doing? Welcome to the show.
We're thrilled to have Gil Monge and Linda Nilon, co-owners of GCD Auto Studio, join the Gearheads and Gasoline podcast today. Gil and Linda opened Gil and Custom Design, a full-service auto interior shop offering stock and custom interiors as well as convertible and vinyl tops back in 2006. Been the dial ahead 13 years, and their vision of opening a shop that completed high-end builds from start to finish came to fruition with GCD Auto Studio. Gil is currently in charge of client acquisition and all marketing activities and assists in customer project designs. Linda grew up with a love of cars, the 1967 Camaro being her favorite. She has an extensive high-end retail background with a focus on management, store build-outs, and merchandising. We're pumped to have Gil and Linda on board, so let's dive in. Thanks for joining us, Gil and Linda.
Thank you for having us.
We typically like to start off with an icebreaker to kind of get our podcast rolling, and we like to start it out a little bit different. So we have a very kind of unusual question, and that is, what's your favorite drink?
It's an old fashioned.
That's awesome, because I just found those last year at SEMA, and I'm loving them.
And Linda makes the best old fashioned. So.
Nice. Good job. And what about you, Linda?
Wine, anything wine related.
Yeah, I noticed that on your, when you filled out our form, you said you enjoy wineries and breweries. I'm in the Finger Lakes area. We're just at the top of Canandaigua, north of Canandaigua Lake, Seneca Lake. Is there a lot of wineries in your area?
Not as many as there are up there. I mean, but we have a couple places. We actually, our episode last night highlighted one of the ones. I actually had worked there. We helped them put together, a couple pieces for the spin-off that they're doing called Willow's Garage and Winery. It's actually like a 60s garage theme. So
That's
kind
awesome.
of that was obviously something I love doing. So
Right? That's so awesome.
Pretty cool. Have you ever been up in the Finger Lakes
Yes.
and checked out any wineries up here?
Yeah,
you're like 4 hours from me.
Yeah, I forget what birthday it was. My mom took me up there. And we spent the weekend at the wineries, antique stores, and all that.
Aw.
Cool. Yeah, they're all over the place up here.
Yeah, there's
awesome.
quite a few around here, I would say. Yeah, there's at least 10.
Is it more wineries or distilleries? Is there more wineries or distilleries down there? Because the landscape here is wineries.
The breweries are catching up. It just
Yeah.
seems like every week a new one's opening up. Which, oddly enough, our shop is in a former brewery. So.
Really?
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
That's funny. We actually have a lot of both, right? So we have a lot of wineries. Obviously, we have Napa that's here. I'm in California. And we have a lot of like smaller breweries that are popping up and companies that are just doing some really cool stuff. I work with a company that does custom beers, which is super fun and super cool. I do that for a client of mine. So essentially they have like a variety of different beers that they produce, that they make. And you can customize the labeling on the beer can. So we've worked with some of our clients to create some actually super cool designs and really cool things that go on those to help them with like events or different promotions that they're doing for their company. So I absolutely love when, companies are able to say like, hey, we've got a really great product, but we really want to be able to customize it to your market so that you can use it and push, what that is. So that's awesome.
Gearheads and gasoline brew. I see it now.
Yeah.
So
you can private label it, which is nice. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's get started. I wanted to ask some questions about how you got started. Want to understand, how did you both get into Gil into auto interiors and then subsequently into auto restoration industry? What did you do before? And how'd you get into that?
Yeah, well, I was in the marketing business. I was working for a company doing national media and advertising. And it was at the infancy stage of online marketing as well. So, and I was just there 10 years, and it just kind of, I was miserable. It was such a horrible commute going to Jersey every day. And it was some new leadership took over. So, before I was given free reign, I can do whatever I want. And then this new regime came in, and there were rules, and I don't do good with rules and stuff. So I don't think you can have too many, restrictions when it comes to being creative in marketing. You just,
Right.
the more restrictions you are, it kind of defeats the purpose of marketing.
Absolutely.
So, there was some restructuring, and I had an opportunity to do the first round of buyouts, which is always the best round of buyouts. So if anybody's ever in that position, take the first shot at everything. Don't wait around. It doesn't get better.
My dad did that with Xerox years ago.
Yes, I said I'm going to start something. I kind of dabbled in the upholstery business before with my brother, and that was a nightmare. So I was like, from my marketing experience, I was like, I'm going to do something. I wasn't 100% committed to doing automotive upholstery, but it just seemed like the most opportunity in that part of the automotive industry. There were a ton of body shops, a ton of mechanic shops. And typically, when you think of upholstery, it's usually one guy working on his own, sometimes at home in his own garage, or there wasn't a large upholstery company. So I figured the biggest opportunity for growth would be in the upholstery business. And
I
then
love
Linda had
that.
one who did upholstery. So I kind of, we took on that person, and then it just went out of control from there.
That's awesome. I do custom truck builds and on a very small scale. But one of the things that I like doing is like the interior, right? And just like you said, like I think we have maybe two upholstery places in our region, and one of them doesn't have the best reputation, and the other one is just slam packed. So like I think that's awesome that you guys picked in on something that you knew you could grow in, and that you were really aware, excuse me, of a niche in your industry.
Yeah.
And then Linda was involved in the beginning, but as we grew, she became more and more involved. I kind of tricked her into coming in.
I can say, echoing what Annette said, Motorhead Digital, we follow a lot of shops. We want to see what's happening, and there's not a lot of interior only shops that we follow. They're few and far between, especially ones that are really doing high quality stuff. They actually have a team. They're not just one person, right? But I wanted to ask, what pushed you into doing full builds and everything? What was really the reasoning for doing that? Because it's a totally different, adding fabrication and paint and everything. It's a big move.
Yeah. I mean, it was the clients, right?
Well, yeah. So the problem is that, there's no place that does everything. So, and you have one interior place, you have one person that does body and paint, you have one person that does mechanical. So your car is traveling from place to place to place. We're usually the last people to get it. And by then the customers are frustrated. They're just done. They're pushing us to get it done faster, because they're ready to just have it done, which, clearly the interiors are quite complicated. And the general consensus was it would be nice if, there was just one place to bring a car and have everything done, and I don't have to transport it all over the place. I can come and see it. So this is kind of what pushed us to do everything.
Yeah. And it was only a handful of clients, it was like, I think mainly two clients were pushing us in that direction. So
Yeah.
I think the original intention was just to do a few cars for a few people, and that didn't last long. So
And then it grew, right? Open Pandora's box and like
yeah,
keep going, right?
Hey, that's a great thing. Like, especially when, it's kind of like, oh, well, we're going to try it and see how it kind of plays out. And then it just happens to like steamroll. Like, you're all, yes, let's ride this train.
yeah. And then
Is
we started attracting, like, because Linda dealing with the clients, they found a person who would listen to them and understand what's going on, and then we started attracting these cars that were half built and coming from other shops, and then it was almost like an orphanage opened up, and it was just all these.
Well, I don't like when people get taken advantage of.
Yeah. That's
So
awesome.
I'm one of those people that I want to make sure that somebody has what they deserve to have and be able to enjoy it. And I wasn't seeing that. And growing up with a single mother, I know that she was taken advantage of quite a lot.
Yeah.
And I make it my mission to make sure that that doesn't happen.
I
So
love that.
that's why we end up with a lot of these rescues,
Yeah.
so to speak.
I love that.
That's awesome. I work with a lot of shops and I've heard lots of horror stories of shops taking cars in, taking people's money, and then they get put in the back lot for months
Yes.
on end. And the owner's like, what are you doing? Right?
Yeah.
You took my money and you parked it, right? You're better off saying, look, I can't work on your project for 2 years now.
Yeah.
We have a client that's out 2-3 years.
Yeah, and we find that if you tell the client, hey, listen, we're not going to get to it this year, they wait because they want it done the right way,
Right. And you're being transparent with them and you're communicating with them. You're not just like dismissing what is valuable to them.
Yeah. So let's ask, regarding that, you've grown your business. You went from interiors to full builds to pretty much doing every part of a build. Is there any point that you felt like you made it personally and professionally, especially within the business? Is there any point where hey, we got this, and you got an awesome shop there. You made a comment about building a bigger shop. With success and growth comes that kind of ability.
Yeah, I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we've made it. It just, and I think once you have that, where you feel that way, then there's nothing else to go for.
Right.
So, I mean, we have a lot of work to do. We've only had the full build open for 4.5 years. 6 months in, we had COVID.
Wow.
We're still adding to the team. We are booked out until April of next year. But you can't get comfortable and you can't say, it just doesn't work that way. And life has a way of throwing curveballs at you. So, I think when I can say we've made it when we retire.
There you go.
I think for me, the target keeps moving, right? So in my head, when I started the interior thing, I was like, oh, if I can win this award, we did something. But then you get there and you're like, all right, well, now that we did that, I need to do this and I need to do this. I think we're both driven by success, so we're always pushing the envelope, so to keep moving forward. So I don't want to feel like I've made it at any point. So.
Nice.
Yeah, and that was a trick question. I like your answer to that because you get complacent, right? But you did say success. You won awards and things like that. What is the one thing that you feel contributed most to your current success?
For me, it's our team. It's our team 100%. I always say my job is to get the cars in the shop. Their job is to get the cars out of the shop.
Right.
And until they get out of the shop, they don't count. It's got to go to shows. It's got to go to magazine covers, and the customers have to get their cars. So it's 100%. It's the team.
I love it.
Yep. There's no I in team, right? So with the PowerTube TV show that you're doing on, you're recording today, I understand.
Yes.
How has that affected your business? How has it helped your business? Has it made it more crazy every day?
I don't think it's not an everyday thing, because the beauty of it is we control production. So we determine our film dates, we determine what's being filmed, the interview schedules, and the kind of the storylines of the episodes. I will say it's starting to make a difference because we're finding that our existing clients are watching and making comments and texting and saying stuff. And then we have clients that have projects that are coming and asking if the project's going to be on the show. So I know it's we're only 9 episodes in, so I anticipate that growing to people who haven't experienced having a car here yet or haven't booked a car here yet. Will look at that as an opportunity to get their project viewed by more people. So it's been a positive from that perspective.
It's interesting you say that about customers, because I have a shop here out south of Dansville, New York, that puts every one of their builds from the 35 years they've been in business on their website, and their customers love it. They share it all over the place. They say, check this out. Check out what RJ Cars did for us, things like that, right? So that's huge. Wanted to talk about challenges and opportunities. What are some of the biggest challenges you face with running a modern restoration shop?
Well, I mean, you have to count on people to, show up, work, come in. Sometimes that's, things happen, life happens. But given the amount of work, sometimes you miss a day, it snowballs, and it kind of puts you behind the 8 ball a little bit. So I would say that's one of them. And obviously parts are another challenge. I mean, I ordered a transmission for a project that's here back in the first week in January, supposed to be in stock. Then all of a sudden it wasn't showing up. I looked and then it was on back order. And I'm like, you said it was in stock. I still haven't gotten it. So the Bronco's here, still don't have my transmission, but I have everything else.
Right.
So, those kinds of things are, just which I'm sure every builder has those challenges.
Yeah, and off the heels of COVID, right? So like I do a lot of stuff in the performance racing industry, and we deal with that a lot when it comes to like parts attrition and just trying to, get, like shoot a rack of pistons, or even if we're looking at, custom pieces of the car, because we do a lot of like grudge stuff and a lot of no prep stuff. So for us, we kind of look at like, okay, how much time do we have to add on to allow for there being a delay of getting those parts before we will or won't make that race.
Yeah, no, it's tough,
I think the other challenge too is just timelines and moving projects along. When you have so many different projects going on, both on the build side and on the interior side, we probably have 6 going on each side separately, and it's just you reach a stopping point on one project, you kind of jump over to the other one, but then you still got to get back to that one. And then, I mean, some weeks it feels great, like you've done so much and you can see parts going on and seats going in. And other weeks you look and go, man, what did I do this week? You've made progress, but you just visually, it's not progress you can see. So that's the biggest challenge to me, is just, getting through those weeks where it doesn't feel that way, and refocusing and going on to the next week. And then, because really the payoff is when the car is finished and people see it, right? But there's so many months of work that, the highs and lows of the relationship with that project,
When it rolls out the door and you have a happy customer, right? What are we've seen a lot of shops working on dealing with those challenges by when a project comes in. A lot of the initial deposit is just for those parts. They may not even install for 6 to 8 months, but they get them ordered. Mm-hmm. And then there's challenges with team and things like that. What are you doing to address those challenges? What have you found works that we can tell our audience that they might not even have thought of?
Well, before the project lands here, as soon as I book the spot and we know the parts that we need, I get the deposit for all the parts. We order everything and have it here. Nice. I don't like to bring a project in unless we have something to work on. I'm not a storage unit. Obviously you want to work on everything. So we make sure like the Bronco that's in, we ordered all the parts and everything's here except for this transmission still. With the Coyote motors here, there's a laundry list of things that we're doing to this.
So many boxes.
Yeah, but it's all here. And that's the point. You drop it off and we start it. And that's how we get things out the door, rather than just things just stacking up here. And I have OCD. I like things neat, clean. I don't like stuff in the way. You're done with that box, throw it in the garbage. Like, so I'm very much, we got to get this done. So,
Nice.
so everything is already here ahead of time. And the timeline and what we're going to do when we're going to start is clearly communicated to the customer and to the guys, the team.
Even on the upholstery side, we do that as well. The leather's here, the sound system's here, and then to speak to the other point, the challenge with personnel is, I think on both sides, the build side and the interior side, our team is comprised of individuals that have multiple talents. So if someone's out for a day, we have 2 other people that can weld.
Nice.
On the interior side, if someone's out, we have other people that can do fabrication, or we have 3 people that can get behind the sewing machine and stitch.
Nice.
So I think that's key too, is building a team that is well-rounded. I mean, they may not be the best at a particular task, but if you needed to make a few brackets or something like that, you have somebody else who can jump in and get.
Oh, that's huge, because you're paying, you have that payroll, and you can't have people standing around either, right? Like, I don't have anything to do, but you have work.
We don't have that here.
No,
you want to set that up so that doesn't happen, right? So you have the parts, you have the backups to the backups, right? That's the same way with parts. I'm assuming you have, this is my first go-to for a part, but I also have a second and a tertiary, right, where you can go if you can't get parts from your main supplier, right? Especially if it's a long wait.
Yeah.
Cool. I got one last question. What opportunities for this part? What opportunities do you see for your shop and other shops in 2024? The big picture of just the industry in general, I guess.
For me, I think the opportunity is I think the builds are going in a different direction now. I think we've moved past the old stage of how to build a car, especially on the higher end. I think now with the chassis and everybody going with modern LT motors or LS motors, or now Ford has all these motors available, and even Mopar has all the motors available. So I think the opportunity is for builders in this industry to build cars that are more in tune with a modern car. Because I think that's the challenge, right? A lot of clientele that we have and other builders have are not true car people. Like if they had a carbureted motor, they try to start it, the battery goes dead, or they flood it out, the car's going to sit there, But that the client, the more novice client who just wants a beautiful car, will get into a car, turn the key, that fuel injection motor is going to start. They're going to drive that car. The suspension feels great. So it's going to be a more enjoyable experience. And I think with the advancement of the aftermarket, the part aftermarket and the chassis and everything that's available performance-wise, I think that's the opportunity in this industry, is to get away from the traditional car guy client and go more into the novice side. The client that has more disposable income, that wants that feel of the old, the look of the old car, but the feel of that, that modern car they drive.
Right. It's interesting you say that, because I'm on the ARMO Select Committee for the restoration side, like the full restorations, right? Not chassis or LT engines. And we're seeing more and more of, not a lot of builders doing that. There's still, if you go to McCacken, every car there is a full, looks like it came out of the factory, but there's so much need and desire for a car that performs, that's fun to drive, that's easy to maintain, that starts up every time, right?
Today's podcast is sponsored by Motorhead Digital. At Motorhead Digital, we are digital marketing experts for your automotive aftermarket, restoration, performance, race, and restyling shop. We help you supercharge your shop's website, social media, and entire online presence to attract those badass customers you're looking for.
Cool. Well, we'd like to have you share some business advice of how you market Gil and Custom Interiors and what you've learned from the marketing school of hard knocks. With all the marketing channels available to shops, get in front of prospects, how do you what are the ones that work best for you? What is your thoughts on that? Because there's, it's digital space these days, but there's always also print and your TV show. So you have TV. What's working for you? What's your thoughts on all that?
Well, the marketing perspective is, I mean, it is so many different things. And I will share one story with the simplest piece of marketing we did years ago. We put these little folders together when we were just doing interiors, and we mailed them out to shops within the tri-state area. Now, one shop, in particular responded out in Pennsylvania, and 15, 16 years later, we're still doing full interiors for them. So
Oh, that's awesome.
it was a $3 mailer, and it was a brochure. It had some flyers in it. It had an introduction letter. It was just basically a shot in the dark. Here, let's introduce ourselves,
That is awesome.
And it was probably the most successful marketing campaign we've done here,
And cheapest.
and return, on investment. I mean, it's still going, but I think marketing today it's social media.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the biggest reach. It's the most dynamic content you can present, and the audience is so broad. And you can upload different videos, whether it's an interior video, whether it's a funny video, a full build video. Something's going to strike someone's attention, keyword or something like that. And once you have the audience and you build the followers, now you're just presenting each week to that, daily even. We upload every day. We make sure we have relevant content. I think that's the second key thing is you have to make sure you're putting up content every day because you want to keep the audience engaged.
Yeah, keep it consistent. That's what we tell all our customers, consistent. And our guest the other day said content is king, but context is God.
Yeah.
That is, explaining what you're seeing, why you're doing it, right?
Yeah, and we try to balance educational, like how-to stuff and what we're doing, and entertainment. And we just reached 82,000 on Instagram, so I think they're liking the stuff, and the numbers are good. Because you could always see the plays and the followers, so it's very successful in that part. But and then you put up a video that's the silliest video in the world, and all of a sudden it's the
crazy.
most popular. So.
Yeah, sometimes when you have like the best laid plan, right? Like your intentions are like, this is going to be really cool. We're going to show them because it's something that you find as either being really valuable or important in your process. And you're like, man, that just didn't get what I thought it was going to get, right? But then you put up, like you're saying, something that's funny. You're just kind of something that's happening around the shop and it just goes crazy. And you're like, what?
Yeah, listen, I put up a video like it was 4th of July. It was so beautifully done, slow moving camera. We had the dollies, and right, remember that video was just so perfect. I was like, I'm gonna win an Emmy for this one. This is it. This is my moment here. And it fell so flat. And then Linda puts up a video of one of the guys in a unicorn outfit for Halloween running around, and it's like,
because that's entertaining.
All right, so
I'm the silly one.
I love that.
Silliest stuff goes viral, right? You don't
I'm
ever
submitting this thing to film festivals, and she's on,
viral here. The crazy part is that I find with a lot of my clients is that a lot of the times that, yes, it is important for you to show and capture what you do, where your expertise is, because that puts you in a position within your market, right? But one of the things that I have found across all clients, it doesn't even matter what the industry is that one thing audience loves seeing is that the people that work there, the people that make it what it is, the culture that you've built, that your shop, your company is having a great time, that they love what they do. They love where they work. They love what they contribute to. So there is so much to be said for the funny, silly stuff, and keep it up, Linda. You're doing a great job.
Yeah, Gil, I think you can answer this question and then we'll just wait till Linda gets back. You've done a lot of marketing over the years. You're a marketing person. You understand it and you know what works. But can you share with our listeners some stuff that doesn't work? Don't waste your time with that or that. Or, what you've learned. Everybody's had failures and learned from them, I hope. What's your thoughts on that for our listeners?
I think, from a business perspective, don't race to the bottom. Don't ever allow your competitors to dictate pricing, right? So, and you'll get it in regions where, somebody will go, oh, I can do a seat kit installation, right? A cat skin kit, $9.99, and it's well, then I'll do $8.99, and it's like, don't,
Right.
you know, you want the quality to be the differentiator. Don't let pricing dictate,
Right.
your strategy. So that's key too, because you just when you start getting into those things, there's only one place to go, which is lower and lower, and it's not going to bring you the client you want.
Right. Yeah. And
Um,
there's like so much to be said about like if somebody comes to you and kind of lowballs you, that it's okay to say, like, look, we're not the shop for you, and understand and recognize who your ideal client is, or even the client that you're willing to negotiate with. Because there's a lot of companies out there that do exactly what you said. They're like, man, I'm really desperate for the business. So yeah, sure, I'll do it. But it's only going to be this one time. And it never ends up being just that one time.
Yeah, and for me, it's like Linda cringes sometimes because I mean, I have a certain way of dealing with certain things. So, I have a client come in and they go, they'll ask for a price, and I'm like, well, it's going to be $1,250 to do this install, and they'll go, can you do any better? And I'll go 1,400, and they look at you and you're like, oh, you mean better for you? No, I can't. So and it's like, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's funny how in this industry people do that. But
Right.
if you go to like the doctor's office or you go to purchase
You
something,
don't get to negotiate.
no, but it's weird. Like it's that dynamic of, what if I pay cash or what if I do this? And I'm like, it's still the
Yeah,
same price. I
you
don't know
don't
what to
think.
do.
Yeah, you don't think about that when you go to the
Yeah.
doctors or the dentist or whatever and other things. Um, what effect? With that said, you're doing a TV show and everything, and there's so many shows out there over the years. What have you had customers say? Well, how come you can't get it done in 3 months because of shows they've seen build a car in a week?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that comes up, but there's two things they don't really understand when you watch those shows is that team is running 24/7.
Yeah.
The celebrities you see, they're only there for that, 1 hour show, and supposedly it's done in a week, but there's a whole team behind the scenes that's working on that
Right.
24 hours a day. And then the other challenge too is I try to explain to the clients, you can't replace time, right? Time
Right.
is what it is. So on the full build side, we do the metal work, we go to a high build prime. We let that cure. We like to let it sit for a few weeks. We block it down, get all the gaps straight. We go to another high build prime.
Hmm.
Let that cure. We block it down. Then you go to jam it out. You make sure all your gaps are good, and then you go to paint. You let that sit. Then you start cutting and polishing. Well, that's 3 months right there.
Yeah.
And it's time. You can't replace that. You try to explain to them that. Do you want to see sanding scratches underneath the clear? Do you want to look at it? Do you want it? What's the end result? And I
Right.
get, and the challenge. Oh, I need it for a particular car show, and I'm like, is that the last car show ever? There's never going to be another show. They've decided that's the last one ever.
Right.
It's like, do you want something that's going to be okay in 2 years, 6 years, 10 years? Because when you rush through a process, you're going to sacrifice something,
Right.
and those 1 week builds and those 1 month builds. I mean, they're making the show circuit and they're sitting out in the hot sun. I'd love to see that car and
Oh
after
man.
it's outside for a few weeks, and people are looking at it. What does it look like then?
Right.
Yeah. My my mom used to have this thing in the kitchen that says, "The hurrier you go, the behinder you get."
Yeah,
So in this case, if you hurry, a year down the road, that car is going to be back, or even sooner,
yeah,
right? Because stuff is starting to surface.
yeah. And that was the challenge with the HBO show for Robert Downey was they came to us and they needed this full car built in a ridiculous timeline, and wasn't going to happen.
Right.
We would do it. We agreed to do it if we were able to do it at our pace, at the quality we wanted to put out. And for us, it wasn't a TV car. It was a build for Robert Downey. It was a '65 Corvette. It was going to be done in a matte finish, so the paint had to be flawless because you can't cut
Right.
and polish it. It's and we went through that build. step by step. And, I'm sure it frustrated everybody in production, but, for we had a full shop of clientele. So for me, it wasn't about getting the show out there to get more clients. It was about getting the project done the right way.
Right.
Right. And you have a reputation to uphold, right?
Yeah, because I always tell people, no one's going to be sitting there at the show explaining to people, well, they only had 2 weeks to do it. Well,
Right.
they only paid this much to get it done, So those things,
Right.
no one explains those things. All they see is your name and then the vehicle. That's it.
Yeah, that's actually a good point just in business in general, right? Like it's a good reminder because I think that it's really easy for people within the industry to pressure other people to do something, businesses. But just like you said, like they don't know what the backstory is because there isn't anybody there explaining what that timeline was or what the rush was or what it actually took. They're just seeing like, well, end product. And yeah, that was easy. So why can't you just, redo that? But it isn't just like that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you some things you look at, especially like SEMA and stuff. Like some stuff looks really good. It does look good, but what's under the surface there. Especially interior wise. How was it put together?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
when you take that door panel off, what does it look like underneath?
Yeah, we have we have a saying in the racing industry. So like it looks, not calling out NHRA because I love them as a series, but and who they are within the industry. But any one of those like cars that you see, you're like, yeah, it looks great. Like NHRA far away, like it looks fantastic. But it's closer that you get, the more questionable it can be sometimes.
Yeah. So Gil, let's talk about youth engagement, and wanted to ask you, with all the positions to fill in shops, from fabricators to painters to electrical techs, other positions, what are you doing to support the youth engagement? You had told us on a phone call that you're doing some stuff with that, and in regards to education and also even interns and things like that. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I think we just a couple of weeks ago, I did an event down in Passaic, New Jersey. There was a career week, so we went down there to present. It was supposed to be like one or two presentations. We wound up doing 5 because they just kept bringing in audiences into the auditorium. Um, I think the key thing, they have an automotive program, so that helps, and you also have BOCES program here in Orange County, so you can reach out to individuals like that. But I think the challenge is, um, I don't think we're looking the right way as an industry. Because you think about it, right? Because growing up, it was about muscle cars, and we would go to car shows, and then you'd have this younger generation showing up with a Honda Civic or a Toyota Corolla, and we'd look at them and go, "Oh, those import cars. Those guys don't know what they're doing."
Rice
But
burners.
yeah, you dismiss that audience, right? And now
Yeah.
you're looking and go, they're car people. They are car people. There's just different cars.
Correct.
And I think this generation, they're car people still. We're just seeing it differently. It's more technology driven. It's more design driven. And as an industry, we're changing, right? There's more of a need for CAD design and 3D printing and CNC machine work. So those things we need to look at, because that's a big gap in our industry right now, right? Especially even on the interior side, everything's is CAD design and 3D printed now. You can print the whole dash and door panels.
I saw a shot on, it was one of, I don't know what interior company, but they're doing CNC stitching or something. They showed CNC design or whatever.
Yeah, digital stitching, yeah.
Digital stitching. I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. But you had mentioned on our call about when you were at that event, when you started talking about the CAD and the 3D printing, a lot of ears perked up.
Yeah, because it's computer. It's something they can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, once you get that conversation started, even just to get that engagement going, then you have them, the attention, and then you can open their eyes to the other aspects of the automotive industry, right? Because, pretty much people think of cars, oh, I'm going to just be turning wrenches, doing oil changes and brakes and things like that. And it's really, we have to look at bigger audiences, tailor our message to the audience, right? because I think that's the challenge too, as shop owners and business owners. We go out there and we tell our story and we recruit a certain way, but you have to read the audience and know exactly what piques their interest,
Right.
and then take that part and figure out how that fits into our industry and deliver that message back to them. It's work, but that's what we need to do is change the way we're delivering our message to the audience.
Yeah,
Cool.
and be more open to like what you're saying is that, there's everybody who is doing automotive, regardless if it's exactly the way that you do it or not, they're still within the automotive space, which helps our space grow, right? So understanding and respecting what they're bringing to the table and what their perspective is, and definitely taking into consideration that like some of the younger generation are really going towards that CAD stuff. They are going more towards the digital stuff, which does play a role in what we do, regardless of how old it is or what that is. So I think that you made a really good point.
And it's also the electronics of it, right? Tuning a car and all these new computers now and using more modern drivetrains, that's key. And I think that the other key part is recognizing an individual's talent may not necessarily be the exact thing you're looking for. So, right, when I go out and at that high school or other events, I'm looking for individuals who are looking for an opportunity, individuals that show initiative, individuals that are responsible, respectful, and have a hard, have great work ethic, and who are going to work hard. I mean, you can teach skill sets, right? Especially you want them at that younger age to be able to teach them the things you need to teach them the way you want it done versus getting somebody later in life that has a certain way to do things. But I think you gotta, as a recruiter and as a business owner, recognize the other aspects of an individual, more importantly than do they know how to change spark plugs. Well,
Right.
we can teach them how to do that, but do they show up to work on time every day? Do they work hard? Are they dressed appropriately?
Do they have a good attitude?
Have a good attitude and
Yeah.
want to learn more. So I think if we kind of, again, it's tough as a business owner because you're so focused on running your business, but the reality is you have to be a marketing person, a recruiter, you have to be a financial person, you do the work. There's so many different responsibilities. So that's the challenge too, is knowing what you're best used to do. Like know your skill set and focus on that, and surround yourself with people who do those other things really well.
Right.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Annette Bauer Creative. At Annette Bauer Creative, we understand the power of visual storytelling in transforming brands and driving growth, from capturing the essence of your products and services to showcasing the unique solutions they offer. Our professional imagery and reels help bring your brand to life.
Yeah, my next question was really about youth, and there's so many things out there where young people don't care about cars or getting their licenses later, but I think you kind of blew that out of the water, that myth, because you ended up doing 5 sessions. You had lots of people come in, lots of kids come into your sessions, so they're out there. The other thought I had is, what's your thought about interns and, spending the time with a student or a younger person that's actually out of school, but they have all those values and good work ethic, about taking the time to bring them in and teach them, even if they start pushing a broom.
Yeah. And that's, we did the event in Passaic. That same night, one of the students emailed me, and then a week later during spring break last week, he showed up and he spent the day here.
Nice.
So that person showed initiative. He found his way up here an hour away, and he spent the whole day learning each person's job, trying to figure out where he would fit in. He loved body work and the final assembly of stuff. So that was
that's cool.
That's
learning.
awesome, though.
But as far as interns, I think it's important. You have to make yourself available. And I think there's different reasons why. I mean, obviously, from a business perspective, you want to be able to recruit and get new people in your business to keep growing the business. But I think from a social perspective or an ethical perspective, because we find ourselves going to events that are more in low income areas or areas of opportunity. So for me personally, growing up in the South Bronx, being Puerto Rican, I feel an obligation to make sure that I'm present. I'm taking the time to meet with individuals and give them the same opportunity that I had. Because my mom always said, she would always tell me, opportunity is equal. Everybody has the same exact opportunity. The results are going to be based on how hard you work and
what you do
put
with
into
it.
So, and I think us as adults and people who are, in a position to give back to our communities, it's key. A lot of this youth is being lost because there's no one paying attention. There's no one involved. And I think it's a necessity. And I wish more people did it, and got more involved and engaged with the youth.
Well,
Yeah, we have a lot on our side. So, like when I was in school, right? Like I had shop, I had, like all those different types of extracurricular learning opportunities through school. But a lot of times they, especially here in California, they've removed that from our curriculum now. And so that isn't even something that's part of it. So when you talk about like that, those trainings that you did and teaching all those different classes, is that those kids are showing you like, hey, that's something that we really miss and that we really want to be a part of, but we just don't have an outlet for it. Like we have no way of knowing how or where to get involved in it. So I think it is absolutely phenomenal that you not only went out on that limb and did that, but then that gentleman took that initiative to say like, hey, I want to learn and apply himself, because just like you said, what your mom said, like you can have the opportunity, but if you don't apply it, you don't do something with it, it's nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have BOCES up here too, Wayne Tech College, and our local car club that we're involved in. And we actually, all the money proceeds from that car show went to that body shop, and we went over and visited with them. And so we're really keen on supporting the youth and youth engagement. And I love what you're doing there. So.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, kind of as we're moving through this, one of the questions that we always ask as we look at all the things that we've talked about, you've talked about a lot of great stuff. You've shared a lot of great knowledge. And we look at things like, how can you, within the experience that you've gathered and learned over your years, help other people kind of avoid, making some of those mistakes. So if you were to look back at all the things that you guys have done, all the things that you've learned, what your experience is, what would your advice be to a younger you?
My advice would be, so many mistakes, but the key thing is I wish in the beginning stages I was more organized and I was more conscious of pricing the right way. And I just felt like early on I didn't set myself up for success. I kind of just took things as they came in because I wanted to take jobs just to have jobs. I wish I was more selective.
Yeah.
Because I think somebody told me once, he goes, sometimes you make the most money on the jobs you don't take.
All right.
And so my advice would be patient, be selective. I know it's tough to do because you're just starting out.
Right.
Just look for the right projects to take on. Don't take on projects that you're going to get buried in just for the sake of having something in the shop. And in the beginning, I was horrible at follow up and keeping track of projects and just being organized in general. And then, when Linda joined us, that all had to stop. Everybody, there's folders upon folders. I'm sitting at her desk now, and there's like 20 folders sitting there, like all organized and neat. So I would say, the biggest, threat is disorganization and not being prepared in the beginning, because it's the most critical part. It's just starting off in business. And if it could discourage you if you don't get a good start. So that's why when we launched the full build site, it went a lot smoother. Even COVID couldn't stop it, because we were so organized.
That's awesome. And you don't know what you don't know, right? Like you said, when you're first starting out, like you're hungry for everything and you're excited about it. And surely every business owner has gone through this where they've, like, man, I'm just in it. Like I'm so in the middle of it, right? That you don't always stop to think like, I need to take the time to be organized.
Yeah.
I need to take the time to do those things.
And for me, I was spoiled because when I was doing the marketing, I was at a higher level. So I was kind of like the idea person. And, I just like the fun stuff. That's what I get accused of all the time. He likes to do the fun things. And there were other people that did the other stuff. So once I started my own business guess what? I got to do everything, even the stuff I don't enjoy doing.
Yeah, like
And
books
that's
and
another lesson.
talking to accountants and lawyers, right? The
Oh,
boring stuff,
yeah.
right?
Emails, voicemails, text messages. Like you can't escape nowadays. But so I would say that's the other piece of advice. Do the things you love, but sit down and do the things you may not necessarily enjoy doing because it's just as important. Trust me.
Very true. Very, very true. Let's see here. Well, actually, I'll let Barry. I don't know if Barry has any other questions for you.
I do not. Roll with it.
Fantastic. Okay, so I know we're missing Linda, but I also know that you guys are under a time constraint, so we want to be very respectful of that. Typically, as we're kind of looking at how we wrap our podcast up, that we kind of do like let's go back over some of those tips and tricks and advice for our listeners and the audience, and like hone in on some of that advice. And some of the things that I heard you say that really kind of resonated with me was, like your things of just being selective, right? Like that really resonates with me. It resonates in my business. It resonates within our industry. And I think that that is incredible advice. Definitely being patient, but being organized, those are definitely some important things. And I love that you guys are so open to helping younger generations learn and actually get their hands involved to say like, hey, come in and see what we do and where you would fit in if you even want to fit into it once you see it. So I just love that, that's something that you guys do as a shop and, as a culture.
Yeah, I asked one question about success and how you felt, if you felt you made it, and you said you didn't feel you made it, and more because you don't want to get complacent, right? If you feel that like, hey, I got it, I'm here, we're good, then you tend to get complacent. You always want to be moving forward and looking at growth, and growth doesn't always mean more builds or more employees. It might be better builds or different cool things. Like there's a lot of EV stuff going on these days, right?
Yeah. And I think for me, people always say, what do you want, in this industry? And I always refer to it as the 3 R's for me personally. I want to be relevant, right? I want to do things that are relevant to our industry. Second is I want to be respected, right? So what I did was relevant. People respect what we've done. And then ultimately in the end, you want to be remembered, right? So those are the 3 R's. I want to be relevant. I want to be respected. I want to be remembered, because you look back in this industry, you think of, we speak of such high regard, like of Boyd Coddington and George Barris and like all these individuals that have done such great things, and they're very respected in our industry. Gene Winfield and, these people we look at, even Chip Foose, like even guys still creating amazing things, and Dave Kindig, who just won the Riddler Award. I mean, when we talk about these people, we hold them at such high regards because they do such relevant stuff, and they're respected in our industry, and those things are going to make a difference too. It's going to attract more people to our industry.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And everybody has the vision of, I want to be there someday, right? I want to be like them, at least their stature and the respect they have, and even the level of builds they're doing, the amazing stuff, especially with the tech we have these days, right?
And for me, watching TV early on, I used to watch, American Hot Rod and Boyd Coddington, and the thing I would enjoy the most was when the car went off to Gabe's to get the interior done. So maybe I always had this thing in my back of the head with the upholstery, and even to this day, I look at Gabe as he was the pioneer. You know, he started like, you know, that industry at that level of building interiors. You know, these high end interiors. So, you know, and you know, it's the industry is so big, and there's people, you know, that we respect in so many different facets. You know, look at the roadster shop guys with their chassis, and the Ring brothers. I mean, there's so many different
Totally.
avenues you can, or Charlie Hutton with painting. You know, you look, there's so many opportunities for people to stand out within this industry. You know,
yeah, they've just got to apply themselves and find what their niche is that they want to really excel in. And yeah, 100%. Like, wow, you like throwback. I have not heard Boyd Coddington's name in like a super long time, so I appreciate that you know, gave him some props and kudos. And of course, we all love Kindig, and we all love those guys who you just see some incredible crazy builds come out, but stuff that like homage to the old days, you know, classic cars. And but it says a lot like what you guys are doing. They're taking a lot of what that old stuff is and migrating it into like a modern day creature comforts, right? Like things that we want to be able to be reliable upon, that we don't have to take a big tool bag with us every time we take our car out, and just in case we break down, you know?
Yeah. And when you say all that and mention all those people, I think about the youth engagement. One of our goals here is to educate the younger generation to say there's a lot of cool jobs out there. It's not just changing tires and changing oil and stuff like that in a service or a dealership environment. There's a ton of shops out there and a ton of cool jobs, whether it's, you know, fabrication, body work, upholstery, or even in marketing, right? There's lots of cool, just educating the students.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Gil. So what we're going to do next is a speed round. So don't put too much thought into it. We actually don't want you to. Just list off what comes top of mind, and we'll roll with it.
It's dangerous for you, but go ahead.
All right. So first one is, what's your favorite race driver or team, hot rod, muscle car, or truck? Gives you options.
John Force.
Nice. Okay. Favorite tool in your toolbox?
Tape measure.
Measure twice, cut once.
Exactly.
All right. Do you have a favorite event, car show, or even a racetrack?
Syracuse Nationals every year.
Nice. I love that.
We'll be there.
And
awesome.
And what is the best advice you've ever received, and from whom?
It was my mom. You know, we grew up again in public housing. She was on welfare, and it was a tough life. And I was, you know, a very active teenager. And at 15, she sat me down and said, you know, you're going to have a choice here. She goes, you can be part of the solution, and if you are, you're welcome to stay here, or you can be part of the problem. And if that's the case, I'll give you a few bucks. You can take your stuff and find somewhere else to be. So, and it was the best thing I needed at that time. And it still resonates, because every day in life you can choose to be part of a solution. You can choose to be part of a problem. Every situation.
Wow, that's awesome.
I absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. And I think that if more parents took that approach these days, we would definitely see a shift in what we're seeing happening in society. Like you said, I think that there's just a lot of people who really aren't involved in youth, and therefore you've got like this entire generation that is just kind of floundering, right? Like they don't have direction. They don't know where to go. They don't know, you know, like where to apply that energy. So your mom is spot on to say, like, you're either going to come to the table and you're going to help and be part of the solution, or if you're going to choose to be part of the problem, go do it somewhere else.
Yeah. And it's a sad thing, because we go out to dinner and you see families sitting there and they're all on their cell phones. And it's
oh my gosh, right?
God, just your kids right there. Just talk to them, like have a conversation, you know?
Me and my husband see that every single time that we go out, and like we make comment about it every single time too, because we'll look at a table and literally every single person at the table is so buried in their phone, no conversation, no nothing. And it's just crazy to us.
Cool. Well, I think that's it for today's episode.
Awesome.
Thanks for tuning in, and thank you, Gil and Linda, for joining us. Gil, remind our listeners where they can find you, connect, purchase, ask for support, get in contact with you. Where can they find you?
Well, the easiest way to get in touch with us is at gcdautostudio.com. But also we want to remind people every Wednesday night, starting at 8 o'clock on PowerTube TV, they can see Married to the Rides, our show. We start off at 8 with the previous week's episode, and then 8:30 immediately following, we have a new episode every week. So
That's awesome. I love it. And then you said you guys do social media, right? So where can we find you on social media?
yep, on social media, you can find us on Instagram as Gil and Interiors or GCD Auto Studio. And we have Facebook, and, we're not too active on TikTok because it just doesn't seem to be the right audience, but definitely Instagram, we're big on that. So
Nice. I love it. Well, we've actually had an incredible time with you guys, and thank you again for your patience and some of our technical issues as we were kind of getting started this morning. But again, I think that what you guys are doing in your community and within your shop is awesome. So keep it up. And I can't wait to follow along and just see what your guys' progress is. And I will definitely be tuning in to watch your show.
awesome. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So Gearheads and Gasoline, fueling your success. We can't wait for this to air and for everybody to be able to listen in on all the great things that GCD is doing. I think we know you don't want to miss an episode, so don't forget to smash that bell so that you get notified of every new episode. Click that like button, leave us a comment, and share with your people. And visit us repeatedly. We love it.